What's going on, guys? It's Michael, and today I got a bit of a different video for all of you. April has come and gone, and of course I've been very busy with a lot of different stuff during the month, mainly with school and just a lot of other personal things going on in my life. But I was able to see quite a few movies during the month of April, so instead of doing an individual review for each movie I saw, I thought I'd do a bit of a catch-up video, a bit of a recap of what I saw during the month of April. This will be split into two parts, and with each part, I'll be covering three different movies very briefly. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time, just want to give you guys my thoughts on the movies themselves. And in today's part, part one, I'll be talking about Air, Renfield, and Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. And without any further ado, let's get started. The first movie I want to talk about is Air. This is directed by Ben Affleck, and it takes place during the 1980s. It's based off a true story, and it's about Sonny as he's working at Nike headquarters, and he pursues the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan, as he's trying to build these new line of shoes called Air Jordan. It's a story I wasn't really sure that could be adapted into film, or at least as interesting as I thought it would be. But man, after watching the movie, I was all in. This movie was absolutely fantastic, thanks to a very solid screenplay and great performances from Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. It's a story I thought wouldn't be super interesting to portray on film, but I was very happy to see the final results. I was very engaged throughout the entire movie, just seeing the creations of Air Jordans and how Nike was able to get Michael Jordan on board. And even for people who aren't fans of sports like myself, this is still a very entertaining watch, and I would highly recommend it. I also recommend it to those who love Ben Affleck as an actor and director. He did a very good job here, and I think that this is one of those movies that is definitely a crowd pleaser. I saw this with a packed audience during an advanced screening, and everyone just loved it. The energy at the end of the movie, like with the audience, it just kind of hit a little bit different with people who were fans of basketball and people who just didn't really know the story of Air Jordans. I thought it was really cool seeing that on screen. And without any further ado, I'm going to be giving Air an A. It'll be on Prime Video on May 12th, I believe. So that's next week from the recording of this video. So if you haven't seen the movie in theaters, definitely go watch it when it comes out on Prime Video. I think you'll be very surprised. The next movie I want to touch upon is a movie called Renfield. This is directed by Chris McKay, the same guy who gave us the Lego Batman movie and the Tomorrow War, which I haven't seen, but heard it was relatively decent. And it stars Nicolas Cage as Dracula. Say no more, I'm in. Once I saw the trailer to this back in January, I'm just like, okay, I'm in. I want to see this movie day one, just because Nicolas Cage is playing Dracula. And to his credit, Nicolas Cage was great in this movie. I loved his portrayal of Dracula. He's very funny, he's very witty. I loved all his scenes with Nicholas Holt's character, Renfield. I think that's when the movie really shines. Both actors play very well off each other. And there's some pretty cool action sequences in here too. It's very over-the-top violent, more in a comedic way, but if you don't really like blood or gore or that kind of thing, I don't think this movie's going to be your cup of tea. But when the action sequences are there, that's when the movie gets very entertaining. And of course, Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Holt, great. The rest of the movie, I can't really say much of the same. I just think it's a very generic superhero story about Renfield, and I just didn't really care all that much about the plot going on and all the side characters and villain. I just thought were all very undeveloped. It definitely does hold the movie back, and I do wish there were more scenes with Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Holt together, but when they're there together on screen, that's when the movie just really shines, and it's when it's great. But the rest of the movie, it's kind of forgettable. The script is not too great, and it's just, I don't know. The movie could have used a lot more Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Holt, but besides that, it's an entertaining watch, and for people who love Nicolas Cage, I think this is well worth watching, just for him alone as Dracula. Not a bad movie by any means, but it definitely could have been better with more scenes with him and Nicholas Holt. And with that said, I'm going to be giving Renfield a B-. The last movie came as a surprise. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. I had no expectations going into this movie. I remember watching the trailer back last year, I think sometime back in August or September, and I'm just like, This looks very generic and mediocre. I didn't think the movie sold itself very well in terms of the marketing, or at least like with the first couple trailers. Did look a little bit better like when I saw like the TV spots and things like that. And man, after watching the movie, I was proven wrong. This movie was so much fun from beginning to end. I think it was a little bit too long, and there's some exposition that goes on for a little longer than I was expecting, but that's okay. I mean, it's an adventure film after all. Yes, this is coming from a guy that's never played Dungeons and Dragons before, but even with that, I thought this movie was so entertaining. I love the cast of characters. Chris Pine is hilarious here. I love Michelle Rodriguez in here. She's great. And Hugh Grant is also hilarious as well. It's just a very entertaining movie as a whole. I love the journey that all these characters go through and the obstacles they have to overcome. And for, like I said, for someone that hasn't played Dungeons and Dragons before, it's a visual treat. Like, the visuals here are great. The story here is very solid too. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to say other than that. It's a very well-made movie that fans of the game will appreciate, and even non-fans like myself will find a lot to like here. It's a very enjoyable movie, and I do highly recommend watching it. It's too bad that it didn't do very well in theaters. I think it just passed like 200 million worldwide a few days ago, and it's on PVOD. But I mean, if you haven't seen the movie yet, it is definitely worth a watch. Like I said, I do wish that it did a little bit better in the theaters. Like, I don't know, it's one of those movies that kind of surprised me a little bit. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did, and it was a pretty fun theater experience too. Like, there was a bunch of people dressed as D&D characters. I thought that was neat. So, I mean, if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. And with that being said, I'm going to be giving Dungeons & Dragons a B+. So those were my quick thoughts on those 3 movies. I know it's a little bit shorter than what you'd probably expect, especially when talking about 3 movies, but I wanted to keep it short and simple, straight to the point. And I'll be doing a part 2 of this here sometime today as the recording of this video. So be on the lookout for that. And with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all on the next one.